Ross, hi. What's everyone? Greetings. Hope all is well and safe. Frederick, Ross, and Torbjörn, good morning. It's afternoon here. I'm just about to, as soon as I finish the live stream, I've got to head off to the dojo. So my day is ending whilst yours is beginning. Hope you're well. Ross, Rob, good to see you. We'll just wait a couple of minutes and Marco, Ross, good to see everyone. Hope you're all safe and well. Won't be long now for the book. Just a matter of waiting. It's exciting times for me, I know, and there's a lot of people being very patient. So, thank you for being so patient. But I'm really excited, and won't be long. That's all I can say. The ships have left port. Who knows how long it'll take? Of course, like I mentioned, there's some countries that have COVID restrictions, so the ships can't even load the cargo. But once the cargo is loaded, it's just a matter of, a couple of weeks, I guess. Us, Mike, Daniel, us. Got the order, Daniel. Thanks for that. Sensei Mike. So today I'm going to look at Sanchin. And, of course, Sanchin is a kata universal to all styles that stem from Goju. We call it the Yang kata of Kyokushin. The Yang because it's strong and hard, and we call the Tensho the Yin because it's a softer thing. But they have a lot of universal principles. Just because something's Yang and something's Yin doesn't mean the fundamentals change. It just means the expression of the fundamentals are slightly different. Horse Mac, good to see you. Some early birds here today. Good on you. Mike from West Aussie, Mac from UK, Daniel from down south, Marco from down south, Rob too, and Torbjörn and Frederick from Scandinavia. Thanks for coming. So we'll just have a look at Sanchin, and if you've got any questions to open up, that's great. Some styles of Kyokushin have even started to change the way they do Sanchin, and I think it's quite interesting and amusing at the same time that they no longer look like a Kyokushin kata. But there's nothing wrong with the kata that they do. Actually, it's very beautiful. It just makes it more and more similar to the Goju style of the kata. And honestly, well, Sensei Mike would confirm, I'm sure, it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. If the kata has you to pull the hand back and then shoot off and then go like that, well, really, that's not that much difference from shooting to the center line, going over the elbow and going like that. Perhaps the explanation of bunkai would be slightly different, but really, if you have a bunkai for this and you have a bunkai for that, both are applicable to both. So I think it's, changing kata for the sake of change is a little bit silly, really. But anyway, we'll have a look at Sanchin. You can join in if you like, and we'll go over the way that I was taught how to do it, and then look at a couple of key bunkai in it. To be quite honest, I think Sanchin isn't really a bunkai kata. It's more a breathing exercise. It's a good kata to do when you're working on coordination through the body and getting certain movements down, these sort of movements, and understanding those. But the bunkai that comes out of those is almost impossible to explain without experience. I mean, what is this, really? I mean, at the end of the day. Well, then it only becomes practical when you work it in terms of real life experience. And I think what will happen is your experience with it will determine your interpretation of it. Okay, so, you know, even within particular schools, organizations, or sects or styles, you'll have variations in the way it's done according to individuals. If someone is 6'6" and 120 kilograms of, you know, muscle, you know, like Dolph Lundgren sort of character, compared to 5'6" and quite lithe, well, clearly the interpretation of what they experience when they do it is very different. So you should never get caught up in that part of it. The other thing too is that it's Nate and Shay, good on you. Thanks, Glenn, for joining in. So I just had a message from Nate and Shay's mum to say that they're two students up here at the mountain, to say they're not really well, so they're staying home. So here they are jumping online and joining in. So good on you. Good on you. How old are you now, Shay? So Shay and Nate have been training with me for a few years now, and Shay's just had an eye opener. She's just worked on her double and triple Jodan Mawashi, and she's literally whacking guys in the dojo. And it was so cool last week. She's just cracking guys, and now all the guys her age in the dojo are going, oh no, I've got to fight Shay now. In Kumite, they're all going, whoa, like this. She's got whack, whack, whack with these roundhouse kicks. It's so cool to see. Good on you, Shay. I think that was a real great experience to see that. I don't think how you do something is important as why you do it. Yes, and also doing it. That's a good point. You know, I think an awful lot of, again, it comes back to the notion of philosophy. You know, the old saying, a saint for the love of God and a philosopher for the love of talking about it. You know, and I think there's an awful lot of people that spend overly too much time deciding which is which and which is wrong and right. No, it's not wrong or right. Your personal interpretation of it is vital. Mateusz Podlaski, dzień dobry. Yes, Sanchin, yeah, correct. Sanchin is from Goju, Mateusz, and you see Mike Clark, who's visiting with us. He's actually very loyal, and he visits with us all the time. And he's a high-ranked Goju instructor. So if we got any questions about Goju, Mike's here to ask. But yes, Sanchin does have some bunkai, and I think there's just a couple that I'll explain without getting into too much depth. But one particularly affects the way you do certain movement in the kata, and it's a principle of connection, which I think is super, super vital. So you can't overlook that particular bunkai in it. Di bankar os namuste. Ed os g'day Mateusz. Yes, from Poland. Dzień dobry. Welcome. Sanchin Kata is actually from Nahaten and is not exclusive. Yes. Uechi Ryu practice the kata too. Very, very good. Yeah, fair enough. That's a good call. It looks very different. You know, they do. I mean, there are the Sanchin style that does this, Sanchin that does this, and then there's Sanchin that does this sort of thing. But the principle of it is universal, and that is the way you relax, drop, connect, and work. Some styles turn, some don't, but the breathing is vital. I'll just say one thing too. I'll just say one thing too about Ibuki. I have a theory, and it's just a theory. It's never been tested, but I do see that sometimes after a certain age, certain karate leaders, masters, if you like, long-time karate practitioners can suffer a little bit from blood pressure problems. And I think if you have any blood pressure problems, the last thing you want to be doing is really hard Ibuki breathing, okay? The Ibuki breathing is good to strengthen the entire internal system, but if you have blood pressure problems, lay off it altogether. I rarely do any Ibuki these days, but I'll still do the tension through the body, and I'll do light Ibuki, because I think if you do excessive tension and excessive Ibuki, I tend to think it's like a bell curve. It starts to get to a point where it has health drawbacks as much as health benefits and it does get to a point where I think even more drawbacks than benefits. So if you've got any health issues with blood pressure, lay off the strong ibuki breathing and just work a level of tension that you're comfortable with, and go from there. I think more than anything, there's, like I said, there's not many bunkai, but the Sanchin Kata is extremely simple. We teach it very early on, but we don't teach it with ibuki or tension until, so we teach it, first of all, just the movements, and then the movement with tension, and then the movement with tension and ibuki. Okay, so we do that as they get up in rank, and we don't require it for a grading until Shodan. So let's see how we go. Just a quick shout out to all my Patreon family members. Thank you very much. Like I said, your support has really been helpful, and particularly it's allowed me to get the book completed. So any Patreon members who haven't taken advantage of the 50% discount that I'm giving the highest level of Patreon, please do so, because that once the books arrive, all those sort of things will end. But thank you, Patreon. I really appreciate it, and it's really allowed me to continue these live streams. And if you're not a member of Patreon but would like to look at it, well, then by all means, let me just give you a link here. You can go there and have it. Whoops, that question mark should be a slash. Do that again for you. Whoops. Actually, with the Goju, the breathing should be full, not hard. Yes. Look, I'll try to. Vin, good to see you, man. I'll try to go through that today too. That's also a really important point. Is, I think for me, the most valuable benefit of Sanchin and Tensho is the awareness of posture, because as you get older, particularly after, actually there's no lower limit to poor posture, but what affects your posture over time is injury through the lower body, which you without even being aware of it, you start to favor one side or the other to take pressure off your injury. And it's really important to keep reestablishing your posture through a full range of motion. And I think that's the most valuable thing, is good posture. And like Sensei Mike says, that means breathing fully. So it's not so much how hard you breathe, it's using the entire lungs, even to the point where, even though we talk about diaphragmatic breathing, I think there's certain types of breathing I know from grappling where diaphragmatic breathing is sometimes impossible because of the pressure that they're deliberately exerting on your diaphragm and floating ribs. So if you could imagine putting a restrictive belt around your ribs so that you couldn't expand and move your diaphragm, but you still need to breathe, well, then you tend to use the upper portions of the lungs, which get ignored. Now, people with poor breathing only just breathe up here, and that's wrong too, of course. So a complete breath, what we call complete breathing in yoga especially, the lower you push the diaphragm down, expand the ribs, and lift. Well, that lift is automatic within the Sanchin. So anyway, let's have a quick look. Excuse my technique. I'm not an expert, but let me see if I can explain things as we go. So let me just see that that's the right height. I've been flooded out too. I don't know if you can see, but we've had unbelievable weather this week. Incredible weather. And it's continuing on, they say, until Monday or Tuesday, just these crazy, crazy storms, flash flooding and everything. And when it's flash flooding, my garage gets flooded. So I've had a few concerns with that. Yeah. That point, remind me again if I forget to address that, Mac. I think that using Ibuki and Sanchin for recovery is really, really valuable. Okay, so where are we here? There you go, that's good. Okay, you thanks for joining me. Yes. So let's just go through it. I'll step back a little. Sanchin, good. That's me. Tripped up there, got caught on the mat. Look, just analysing it briefly. We start off, the knees come together as the elbows come together. We do the double breakout. That movement there is very important and very strong because working on your Sanchin and Tensho in that respect, where the elbow stays strong, is really important to get any value of that inside Uchi-Uke movement. Here, especially when you're developing, when you're working against punches that are someone trying to hit you. Boom. If I try to block up like that, one, it opens the body, but two, it's your shoulder against them rather than your whole body against them like that. So that's the initial key development, is those strong elbows staying in, the hand staying out. In Kyokushin, it's also taught me anyway, the inside of the elbow is in line with the outside of the body. The inside of the hand is in line with the outside of the shoulder. The wrists are shoulder height. Does that mean anything? Well, that's just, you have to give definition to something. If you open the hands now, that height is essentially the height that you'll use for fighting. Even if you close the hands, the hand at shoulder height there picks up nicely for the cock's comb, protects the jaw, and allows you to cover against strong punches. Okay, so you don't want the hand to be too low because that is not realistic. You don't want the hand to be too high because that's not realistic either, because you're opening the body. There, like that. Okay, whenever the right foot's forward, we're going to do a reverse punch. Now notice, I pull back. I don't pull back with my elbow out. Pull back here, and in Kyokushin, we punch towards the center line. In some styles, they punch straight off. You know, minor detail. But Sosai in Kyokushin taught punching to the center line. And then the hand comes to the opposite elbow before it breaks out. I know some styles come straight off like that. Honestly, the application is exactly the same. By coming to the elbow like this, where are we here? By coming to the elbow here, it teaches you the connection between the two arms. So as you're fighting now, you don't just come inside here or to the outside there. You actually, it works, it teaches you to connect the elbows. So in Uchi-Uke, in Gedambare. In Jordan Uke, in Tensho, the elbows coming together is ki. Uchiuke Gedambare. Uchiuke. Jordan Uke. Gedambare. Tensho. All these movements, the elbows come together to close that gate of where that you've been attacked here, from here to here, is best closed. And if you want to know how well it works, just watch Floyd Mayweather and his peekaboo style. And the elbows are constant. He's in Sanchin, the elbows are coming together, and he can roll off that right very sharply. So we're here, hand goes to the center line, cross to the elbow, and out. Center line, elbow, out. Under. Now this is the first key. I only teach about 3 bunkai for Sanchin Kata. And I sometimes wonder whether bunkai is taught for the sake of bunkai. You know, like I've mentioned, Gandhi said that sometimes a poet is not aware of all the interpretations of his poetry because people will interpret it as they find suitable for their own life. So people will make a metaphor out of things even if the person who created that doesn't see the metaphor. Well, when they did Sanchin, I have no doubt that over the years, the millions of people working on it have used their own brain and have worked out ways to apply different movements to themselves. So maybe the bunkai existed, maybe it didn't. Yes, recovery can be. There you go. So everyone should read Sensei Mike's comments there. Itchy posture, knee breathing, some both brought into harmony. Well, there you go. That's an excellent interpretation. I forget, I brought my book. Let's have a look in the book to see what I wrote as an interpretation of that 3 battles. So this is the section of the book where I've there's Mike Choju Miyagi, the illustration I did for the book. But Sanchin, 3 battles, various references, for example, the coordination of the stance, breath, and arm movements, or the unification of the body, mind, and spirit. So I also taught the traditional training concept of Shingitai, mind, technique, body. There are also Oyama's 3 principles of kata mastery, see chapter 19, also used in other styles. Tempo of technique, points of power, stress, breath, control. These 2 may be considered the 3 points of coordination in Sanchin. This kata was brought to Okinawa from China by Higo no Kanyo. It is the kata upon which the Nahate schools based their teaching. It is also said that Sanchin, or elements of it, especially the emphasis on breathing, dates back to Bodhidharma and the Shaolin Temple. Well, there you go. And as also I said, the one thing that the martial arts take from India is the spiritual side, particularly expressed through the breathing. So that was just reading from my interpretation from the book. I don't know, Mike Clark, if you heard that, but it seems to be in tune with what you're saying there. So there you go, itchy posture, knee breathing, and sun both brought into. It's such a good point because posture is everything. As you get old, the thing you lose is joint mobility, which creates poor posture. So you have to constantly keep working on good posture. And the other thing you lose is full use of the diaphragmatic breathing through the lungs. Expand, close, expand. And this sort of thing is just fantastic as you get older. And by older, I mean anything after your hard tournament career, you're getting older. I mean, you're getting older from the day you're born. We know that. But in terms of karate, I think doing the Sanchin and then doing the Tensho together as 2 kata combine, the yin and yang, and done with a focus on good posture and good breathing, it's just a fantastic tool. It's one of the gifts that karate has to offer the world, I think. For those interested, I recommend the book Sanchin, 3 Battles, The Anatomy and Physiology of Sanchin. I'll have a look at that. Do you move the arm that does not punch slightly so both move out together? Well, if I am, Mac, that's probably my poor technique. But generally, this arm, the non-moving arm, stays where it is. There. It shouldn't move too much. It shouldn't move. I don't see there shouldn't be any need to move it, Mac. Do you think it's yoga-based? Look, like Masayama says, the spiritual Shingi-tai, the mind, the spirit part of gi originates in India. The gi, the mind, the shin part of Shingi-tai originates in India, and that is most clearly expressed through the breathing techniques. So all karate breathing is based on Indian breathing. All Chinese breathing essentially is based on Indian yogic breathing. The gi, or the technique part of Shingi Tai, originates primarily in China. And the Tai, the physical conditioning part of Shingi Tai, originates primarily in Japan, and its focus on strengthening the tanden and the lower body. Samshin and Sanchin are the same thing. I'd say if White Crane does Samshin, if you were to write it in Chinese, it's exactly the same kanji. It's like Kenpo with an N and Kempo with an M, and a lot of people have tried to separate the two, saying that one's this and is different to the other. It's just a transliteration of exactly the same Chinese kanji, I think. I don't think Sanchin itself is yoga based, Mac. I think the breathing principles are. Us, Clarence. Us, Rochelle. Good to see you. Hey, Noah. Hey, buddy. You should be in bed soon. Mike, the card came from China. Yes. Many variations. So I think that after years of training using these techniques together, the breathing and the tense and the isometric should be able to done. Yeah, well, I think experience, repeating something over and over and over for thousands of repetitions allows you to find the perfect balance between tension and relaxation. I'm aware of the Shaolin connection. By the way, when I was struck with Legionnaire's disease in 1998, it was only my lungs being in such good condition that saved me. How fascinating. Well, there you go. And that's a testimony to the Sanchin breathing, I'd say. I likened it to a Roman soldier with a shield in one arm and a short sword in the other. So he should be in bed, yes. Noah, get to bed. Your dreams are waiting you. Yeah, look, that's true too. The Roman soldiers, or any soldiers from any military that carried a shield and a sword, there you go. Look, there's the shield. They'd often hold it like that or like that. Just depends. But I think too, when they talk about Kosaho, Sosai used to talk about Kosaho, simultaneous block and counter. Well, that was very much that sort of thing. So you'd be blocking there like that and hitting at the same time. Palm heel, uppercut, throat grabs and so on. 1, 2, like that. So you're blocking at the same time. That's really worth playing with. Sometimes we play with it at the dojo. The problem is everyone gets cut up and injured if you're not careful. So boom, you're hitting with the palm heel. So you're there. They throw the punch. You work your head movement. And then at some stage, instead of working outside the punch, you knock the punch that way and hit simultaneously, or you knock the punch that way and hit there like that. And it's very Kosaho, yeah. Kosaho is the simultaneous block and counter, boom, that sort of thing. So you're not just going 1, 2, you're actually going 2 or 2 here like that, and then allows you to come back. you open the hand to hit, and then you take the hand away and hit again. Very Chinese, a lot of that stuff. Okay, so let's look at the Sanchin again. And the one bunkai that I really wanted to focus on is the principle of connection that comes from this movement. So from the side, when you're about to do the turn, in Sanchin and Kyokushin, we turn. I'm in this position, I move the hand across. Now, superficially, you see that the hand starts here, finishes here. So it's very easy. I wish I could show you, but the hand, if the hand separates from the body, if you do that movement, you actually completely neutralize the benefits of practicing that movement, because all it takes is someone to grab your arm or grab your shoulder, and you take your hand off the body and try and pull the arm away from that grab, and it's extremely difficult. On the other hand, connection, we've spoken about connection a lot, especially when you're doing the stand-up grapple range and so on, where you're actually getting in touch and you're connecting your body as much as you can with someone. So the more you can connect their body to yours, the more control you have over their body. And the more you can connect your body to yours, the more power you can coordinate by leveraging your whole body. So in other words, if I'm here like this and they grab my arm and my arm comes off my body, it's my arm that is working. This technique shouldn't be done where the arm comes off the body like this. The technique is done with the arm on. You see that? I actually turn my body slightly. So if you can imagine the grip, they're holding my arm. I've moved it, but I haven't moved my arm in relation to my body. All I've done is I've moved my arm in relation to them. And then I come back. So I'm in this position. One, hand comes back, and it's like I'm rubbing. I used to describe it to the students as like rubbing mud off your arm. You know, you've got some mud on your arm and you're wiping it off like that. So I want the hand to come back. You hear that rubbing? Rub it back. It stays on the body and then comes underneath. So at no time is there separation. So it allows you to relax your shoulders, close the waki, and get that. Now, when you get that movement, now the movement is very, very strong, because it's not just my arm moving away, it's the entire body tearing the arm away from the grip. On the turn, let me turn facing it. I'll do about 45 degrees so you can see. I'm here, one, under, step across, point, and undo. So I step across, point, and that's again connecting. I take, if they have a grip, I'm unwinding the grip there, and then across my body again. There. That's where I would have finished. Step once again, and for the second turn, once again my arm rubs across my body. So you get a partner to grab your arm and hold it strongly and try and pull the arm out with the arm off the body, then put it on the body. Use your body to pull the arm, and then at the end, there's this. See that movement? I use my body and then come back. There, like that, if you're doing it fast. We do it slow and unwind again. Or on the turn, step, unwind, punch, punch, there. Okay, so that movement is really vital, and it's very key to making your Sanchin work from a Kyokushin perspective, because some styles, they don't turn, but it's also I added the turn. Yeah. Us Krishnendu Namaste. Ah, man. Look, Kageski. I'm sorry, Mac. Look, usually people say to me, I was taught this, and they go, yeah, that'll work really well. But doing Kageski there just doesn't make sense to me. It's a load of bollocks. to use a British term for it. I'll tell you why. That's my personal opinion. I could be wrong, and if you can make it work, that's fantastic. I think Kagi-ski is primarily a right hand technique. Why? Because the position of the liver, the kidney, and the spleen are different. Because the liver is on the right side of the body, it becomes a right hand. And it's not as effective to hit with Kagi-ski as it is to hit with a proper liver shot. Kagi-ski works more into the floating ribs on the right to shock the spleen and also to come around to the kidney with the right hand. But this is a left-hand technique. It just literally, any technique where you're moving the arm independent of the body, I think should be not taught. Everything should be taught in terms of the body doing the technique and the hand just becomes an extension of it. Well, it's the same with this. I withdraw, I'm pulling my whole body. There, see that? My arm is stuck to my body. It sticks there. Like I said, it's like I'm working, wiping mud. There. You do that with a grab, against a grab, and it means a lot more. Mac, that's just my viewpoint. I could be completely wrong. And if you can make Kagi-ski work, fantastic. I just think it's more applicable in the close grappling range. They grab, I pull my arm out as I turn, I take control of their arm, and see I'm doing that technique. So one, there. So I pull, as I turn, I take control of their arm, and then that punch underneath after I control their arm means a lot more. The rubbing or stickiness of arm to body, you talk of muchimi in Okinawan. We use it a lot, not only as you have shown, but when making contact. 100%, there you go. And I'll tell you something interesting, Mike. I never learned muchimi, but what I did learn wrestling with some really good wrestlers was how much that stickiness makes so much sense. If even something like wrestling, Western wrestling, and I was fortunate to learn and train wrestling from some really, really good guys, man. And they're like, everything they did was just so natural because they've been doing it since they're 5 years old. And that stickiness is everything. And I find that if you can apply that stickiness that you learn, you develop through Sanchin, and then that I developed through dragging arms and changing grips and counter grips, that when I go and do sticking hands with my friend who has spent many years doing sticking hands, I think I get the concept of it a lot more comfortably than I would had I not done those things. Even oh, there you go. That's very interesting. Yes, freestyle, both freestyle and Greco-Roman, especially Greco-Roman because there's so much involved in countering the grips and so on, and countering the grips and maintaining control of the arms, because in freestyle wrestling there's less of that grip work because they're just going to bang and they go in with the shot and take the double legs and single legs. So there's less stand-up handwork. But Greco-Roman, of course, you're not allowed to attack the legs, so they do a lot more work stripping grips and so on like that. So let's have a look at the kata once again and see if I can talk you through the concepts that I'm working on with the movements as they are. Sanchin, good. Hajime. The other bunkai application is these. What are these? Well, if you ever grab someone by the collar or by the lapel or by the the collar of their jacket and pull them sharply, their head goes like that. You pull them here, and the head is like a whiplash. So when you pull, you maintain good posture, and you notice my head stays there. So by grabbing and pulling, I teach it as a headbutt, because then what happens is as you pull in, their head whiplashes, so you hit the forehead, your head, the top of your head, on the lower part of their head, their nose and their jaw and so on. And I always teach in the dojo, if you ever do a headbutt, you always hit with your head above the eyebrows onto their head below the eyebrows, because that's where it's always weak. And so this technique here, you're reaching out and grabbing, and you maintain the firmness of your posture so that when you pull them in, the whiplash movement of the head means that you headbutt them firmly on the lower part of their body. And those hands, that whenever you got knife hand, of course you work on the idea of in the eye or in the throat, like that. So you could headbutt and then at the same time go straight back into the eye or the throat. I prefer not to go, not that I, well, that's not true, but basically you don't want to be going around poking people in the eyes, put it that way. It's very effective though, especially when they're really big and threatening. So I think it's really nice actually to have Mike Clark here, and also Mac Robertson, who's been training Kyokushin for 50 years or thereabouts. So we have this experience where you can ask questions of these people and you'll get some pretty good answers. I think the main things that we take away in Kyokushin are the hand comes back and goes into the center line. I'm trying to lift up here a little bit so you can see my fist. Let me go down a little bit. And I'll go back. So here, center line, and then comes to the elbow. And I always used to teach that you place the tip of the elbow, so I'll draw it on my hand so you can see what I mean. Whether I can draw with my sweaty hand. So it's like that. You have that equilateral triangle and the tip of the elbow goes right there when you finish. Why? There's nothing arbitrary. You have to put it somewhere. And I see people, they put it here, 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 here. There's thousands of places. And they're all just as good as long as your application of it is realistic. So for me, I just find that putting it under there, just by observing Sosai and observing the instructors at Hombu, this was the key. I think Suhas Banik, my hand jerks uncontrollably only when I do Uchiuge block. Yeah, look, I think I'd read that, Mike Clark. I think I read that in one of the Old Testament books, the headbutt techniques coming from the courting ritual of people in Manchester. I can't remember which, it might have been the book of Malachi. And thou shalt go forth into Manchester, and thou shalt court and use the ritual of the Klingons. I think it's a great technique, man, because what it teaches you is the importance of good posture and firmness in the neck. Getting knocked out is usually in the neck. Yeah, that's the one. The Glasgow. That's it. Yeah, we call it the Liverpool kiss. Isn't that funny? Manchester, people probably call it the Manchester kiss. We call it the Liverpool kiss. Yeah, that's the one, Mike. So I'm going back to Suhas Banik's comment. My hand jerks uncontrollably. That's a really, really good point. I think what Suhas Banik is saying there is really valuable, because I see a lot of people do this. Here's the timing. And people do that all the time. And that is the number one, well, for me, the number one pet peeve when I see people doing Sanchin is that tension, 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 pop out. Tension, 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 pop out. And that's completely not what you want to get. By the way, when I think about it, if you have a look at my YouTube channel, I'm getting close to 1,000 subscribers. I thought by this time I'd have about 17 million. But if I get to 1,000 within the next couple of months, I'll be wrapped. So if you're not a subscriber at YouTube, at my YouTube channel, please go and subscribe. And I really appreciate it. I'm up to about 950 or so subscribers. And I believe your life changes after 1,000. Once you get 1,000 YouTube subscribers, you start to have deeper lucid dreams, and you don't need to eat as much food, and your breathing rate halves. So I just need to get that 1,000. Okay, so I'm here. Suhas, you need to be careful to maintain full tension all the way so that it's slow all the way. You don't want to go, you want to do that movement, but with full tension the whole way. So there is no point where it goes, and that's why I always advocate people doing gradings should video themselves doing Sanchin and Tensho, because little things will appear that you're not aware of because you don't notice it in your own training. But that's really important. Make sure that there isn't like this. Don't do that. See, there's no change in cadence. The breath does that little spit out at the end, like that, to tighten everything up. But the arm doesn't change its cadence. So, Suhas, I would suggest, just taking note of your point there, that I would actually suggest that you go through the kata without tension for a while. So don't do tension, just work on slow rhythmic movement so that there is no tendency to want to change the cadence. Slow rhythmic motion. And then once you get that slow rhythmic motion, you can go back to adding some tension. Yes, there you go. See, I agree with Mike Clark. You've got to go back to relaxing, get rid of the tension, and then rebuild it so that you're not like this, that's. And Aspen 77. What's your name, Aspen? I'm sure it's not. If your parents called you Aspen 77 RT, we need to speak to them. They watch too much Star Wars. Put you up there with C-3PO. But that's a good point. I'm sorry I didn't address that. But one of the points of focus and concentration is, first of all, keep the waki closed, the armpit area closed, and the shoulders relaxed. You want to be careful of letting the tension come into the shoulders too much. So yes, the shoulders are always relaxed. Paul, good on you. Shoulders are always relaxed. And one thing also I said, 90% of all problems, all technical problems in karate can be related back to excessive tension in the shoulders. That's very interesting. You think about it. Even kick problems can often be related to too much tension because it elevates the center of gravity. Hey, Kyle. Us. Oh, look, Kyle, yeah, I'd say rather than focus on exactly how much is just, you'll find with that little, you'll probably get 99% out. I don't know. I mean, if that's even possible, I don't know, but it's a fair call. I just find it's just unnatural to not expel as much as you can. Put it that way, Kyle. How does that sound? Is that a reasonable end? Well, from that point, there's just a little bit left, obviously, but then I have to breathe. So depending on how much there is will determine how much I can talk, and I've finished. That's it. So I can get a sentence out on the last little bit of breath, but not much more than that. Are you saying that the power comes from being relaxed? It's the result of good posture, timing. I would never say that. Good. Yes, Mike. Your cynicism is greatly appreciated. Yes, brats. Remember brats, guys. The acronym brats and the acronym bald brats. Remember those acronyms. Power, see Sensei Mike's comment. Power comes from being relaxed, result of good posture, time, Power is not a somatic. The somatics of the body aren't speed, cardiovascular endurance, strength, flexibility, and power. Power essentially is a factor of speed and strength. And to manifest the proper speed and strength, like Sensei Mike is saying, good posture optimizes the body's ability to generate power. Relaxation is important because you decrease the effect of the antagonistic muscles in the technique. There you go. See, Sensei Kyle Buttress has been training for a long time as well, by the way. 75%. See, that's a good call. I don't know. I reckon if you measured it, you may even, I don't know how you know it's 75%. You may actually find that, well, I don't know that it's, I would never expel as much as possible. I know some, you see them sometimes, they go, and if they do that, yeah, and I get lightheaded when I do that. And whenever you get lightheaded, it's not good for blood pressure. So I agree with you, Kyle. I'd say probably your 75% is probably similar to the amount that I expel as well, I'd say. Speaking of the Ibuki, when did it change to your more relaxed version of exhaling compared to what I've seen so strenuous? I think it changed when I turned about 40 because I just stopped it myself. I mean, I observed Solsai, and when I trained at Hombo, Solsai was 10 years younger than I am now. And by that stage, he had relaxed his Ibuki. He would do strong Ibuki for demonstrations, but when he was training, he'd do more relaxed Ibuki. And I just think your intuition is a very powerful insight to what is true and not. And if you listen to your intuition, I think there's a certain point where excessive tension is excessive. I just think you got to find what's natural. And so for me, I just found, a lot of people still think that it's trying to clear phlegm from the throat, but in actual fact, it should be more diaphragmatic. How much and what of the lat muscles lock in or relax? Well, you could look, lat muscles, 83.75%. I don't know. I'm not too sure about that, Paul, but what I do find is, again, the more you experiment with it, you'll find the points of tension through the body will normalize. So you'll work out where you should be tensing. But it doesn't hurt for the sake of it to feel as much tension as you can without the technique becoming like that. So you want the technique to be natural, but you also want it to be able to work around a good solid level of tension. Yep, good posture, do more yoga. Well, never hurts, that's for sure. That's hatha yoga, that is. people should do more Raj yoga as well. The point should be on the diaphragm starting. The point should be on the diaphragms. Yes. Yes, Torbjörn. That's an interesting point, Torbjörn, the vacuum. When people tell me that they wish they could get rid of war in the world, and I say, well, you can't get rid of war because every breath is a war between carbon dioxide and oxygen created by the vacuum of the diaphragm. If you think you can get rid of war, see how many summers you can have in a row without winter following, and see how long you can hold your breath before the diaphragm freaks out. So anyway, some really good points there, and please keep them coming because that's an interesting dialogue. But generally speaking, for Sanchin, they're the biomechanics of it. The wrist is shoulder height, the inside of the elbow in line with the outside of the lat, the inside of the hand in line with the outside of the shoulder. Breathe in. The degree of tension and the intensity of the ibuki really will change with time as you get a little older. I think you should decrease the intensity of the ibuki because it can affect your blood pressure. But like Sensei Mike said, if you want to maintain the value, the impact value of the breath, maintain the completeness of the breath. In other words, don't breathe in small like that. You can do that too. That's a really good way to you work your tanden. You have to keep your consciousness in the tanden when you breathe deeply, otherwise you start to get lightheaded. And by keeping your consciousness in the tanden, your initial tension starts at the tanden as well. So in other words, that diaphragmatic squeeze that creates that pressure should begin low in the diaphragm. And by keeping the consciousness at the tanden, the diaphragm will automatically tune in to that movement really, really well. So that, anyway, look, I'll wind it up there, but I appreciate it. I hope that wasn't too different to some people. I hope you're not looking at it going, wow, his Sanchin is really sucks. That'd make me sad. But of course, clearly it's different to some styles. You know, that Shido guys, they push up these traps, and you know that some, like Sensei Mike said, there's two different types. There's the straight backwards one, and then the turn one. There's both there. Urs Rochelle, I'm glad to see you back. We missed you last week. You weren't around. And we noticed your absence. You're the yin amongst all these crazy yang guys. But thank you, guys. Yeah, like Mike said, great conversation. Look, Sanchin is simply a matter of volume, okay? And one thing that I do regularly when I do Sanchin, I do it in groups of 5. Sorry, my feet are asleep. Sitting in says, so I'll do Sanchin, boom, boom, and then I'll turn 90 degrees and do it again, boom, boom, and then I'll do another one there, and then I'll do the 5th one there. So one thing that I think is a really good idea is if you do the Sanchin and Tensho, and in fact we do it in all kata, in groups of 5, change 90 degrees each time, because that way it'll stop you from orienting yourself to fixtures on the walls and so on. You externalize your orientation. You should be able to internalize it. So when you turn, you're not turning to that wall, you're turning to that movement in the body. I think that's really, really one way that I really enjoy. Yeah, I remember you came in right at the end. I remember mentioning to everybody that you'd been marking papers for your grad students, marking exams. But anyway, thanks, guys. And I really appreciate the conversation. There were some really good points there. Like Torbjörn says, like if we could go back and discuss these points quite at length. But anyway, it was great. I'm glad everybody joined in. Please don't forget, hit the like, leave a comment, hit the bell, pass the word around. Let's see if we can get the subscriber base up to 1,000. Just if you've got friends and family, invite them along, and hopefully we'll hit 1,000 before too long. And I'm fairly certain we'll have more good news about the books. Like I said, some countries, they can't get it yet because of the COVID lockdown rules in their country. But other places like UK, USA, Australia, New Zealand especially, the books will be arriving here any old tick of the clock. I'd say, I don't want to jump the gun and say this week or next week, but won't be too long. So that's really exciting news. So thank you, everybody. Us, and look forward to seeing you next week. I hope you enjoyed that, and please leave comments on the Facebook, on the YouTube channel. Us.